had the market anticipating an announcement out of the Central Bank of Nigeria today, mainly releasing some detail about the implementation of the 500 billion naira real sector fund, but the bank instead throwing more focus onto monetary policy, adding that it will be leaving the country's benchmark interest rate unchanged at 6%. Joining us now live from Stanbic IBTC Bank's trading floor is Samuel Ocheho to provide us with some up-to-date perspective on that announcement made just a short while ago. Samuel, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Well, the headline is that rates have been left unchanged at 6%. Was that pretty much expected by the market?
Hi, Alicia. The market pretty expected that the rates will remain unchanged. There was no talk in terms of the central bank increasing the monetary policy rate. I think everything surrounded that if they need to make any tweak to the rate, probably they will remove the floor for the standing deposit with the central bank. But if you ask me, I don't think it made any sense for them to remove that. So their actions in terms of leaving rates unchanged is okay. Again, if you look at it, is there any pressure on them? Are people liquidating naira assets and taking into other foreign currencies? It is not happening because even the rates on the foreign currencies are very low at this time. So there is no foreign exchange pressures on the central bank at the moment. So I think that's the major reason why they've left the policy rate unchanged.
Of course, this is in a context, though, where inflationary pressures remain a very real threat, and it's heightened by the expansionary budget that we've just seen come to the fore in the country. We've got the central bank still targeting single-digit inflation in Nigeria. What's your outlook in that regard?
Well, I think the central bank has upped its game in terms of its inflation targeting. Initially, they were targeting some single digit in the budget, but if you look at the last budget that was signed by the president into law, it's actually in the 11 bucket. So they've moved into double digit, which shows that at least even their projection is responding to market dictate. But if you ask me, is inflation pressure real? It is very, very real. The budget is expansionary. They're also talking of releasing another 500 for infrastructure project. And this is, we're in the election period. So, the threat to inflation is very real.
Well, of course, that is what largely the market was anticipating. Some detail with regards to the 500 billion naira fund that's been targeted at the power sector specifically. Any detail that emerged from today's announcement with regards to that real sector fund?
Well, we're still expecting the guidelines in terms of the real sector fund. But one positive we need to bring out of that is that the central bank is very, very instrumental to bringing change in the country. They are looking at creating bonds for infrastructure projects, which is the first time in the life of any central bank, in my opinion. And the power sector for us is a sector that needs to be revitalized. If you fix the power sector, then you face a lot of monetary and fiscal policy issues. Then all the cost of doing business will reduce drastically because, unfortunately, right now, the government power seems a backup to generator and all this. So if we fix those, that aspect of our lives, I think it will do us a lot of good. It will do our economy a lot of good. And the central bank has taken a bold step in that regard to ensure that they fix this issue. Hence the 500 billion real sector funds for power projects.
Well, bold steps have been taken in the past. Attention has always been drawn to implementation of those plans. So let's get into this loan, this 500 billion naira real sector fund here. The loan is really concessionary. It's sitting at a maximum rate of 1% over 10 to 15 years. It's really cheap money that we're looking at, isn't it? So really no excuse for these power producers not to execute and supply power at this cheap rate. That's the way it seems. Is that necessarily the case?
Well, if you ask me, I think it's always been about the will. And from what we've seen, the person handling this one seems to have the will to succeed, have the will to make change happen. So we are believing on him as a person to champion this cause. and he's brought all stakeholders together to ensure that this comes to pass. I don't think it will just disburse 500 billion and sit down and not ensure that it is implemented well. I agree with you that implementation has been one of our major problem in this country, but I think that is what we are all working on to change.
So how long do you forecast before we actually see the effects of this infrastructure fund filtering through to industry itself?
Well, first of all, I think we need to see the guidelines as released, which I expect to, that the market will see in the next week. From then one can make projections to say, hey, very soon we'll see these funds coming into the market and to start facing the infrastructure projects.
Looking at the current power that's in place, I mean, we've had Acting President Goodluck Jonathan declaring the power sector as a priority for his government. These are being viewed as long-term measures, though, for a government that is in place for a very short time. Are there concerns at all about the sustainability and follow through of some of the initiatives that come to the fore within this current regime, the interim regime?
Well, Alicia, if you ask me, somebody needs to start. Somebody needs to take the bull by the horn, and that's what the president is doing. He has allocated that ministry to himself, which shows the kind of priority he has for power. And that is, a sector in this country that is ailing seriously. And as long as there's a will to fix it and there are already concerns surrounding it and putting up solutions in place, I think it's just a matter of time. Even if it outlives its government, we only believe that whoever comes in would build on the good work.
Well, on that note, Samuel, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us live from your trading floor over on that end. Of course, we'll be waiting for that detail on that fund and tracking developments there as they unfold.